Welcome to Legacy Uncovered, where we expose the hidden stories you won't find anywhere else on the internet. The private lives of children born into Hollywood royalty, shaped not by fame, but by the fire it took to survive it. Today's subject is a man whose voice defined intensity, whose presence redefined cool, and whose face became one of the most recognizable in cinematic history: Samuel L. Jackson. He conquered addiction, dominated the box office, and reshaped what it meant to be a black leading man in America. But behind the Marvel monologues, the Tarantino speeches, and the Hollywood acclaim is a story far more personal. The story of a little girl who saw her father nearly die and became the reason he chose to live. This is the story of Zoe Jackson and what happened to the only daughter of Samuel L. Jackson. Zoe Jackson was born in 1982 into a world far from glamorous. At that time, her father, Samuel L. Jackson, was 34 years old, a struggling actor still chasing callbacks in New York's off-Broadway circuit. He was talented, respected in small circles, but unknown beyond a few stage credits. Her mother, LaTanya Richardson, juggled jobs as both an actress and caretaker, often the only stable force holding the family together. Their Harlem apartment was modest, their income unpredictable, and their future uncertain. But Zoe was born into a home filled with love and shadows. Throughout the mid-1980s, as Zoe began to crawl, then walk, her father's demons grew louder. Rejection, typecasting, and industry racism gnawed at his confidence. He turned to alcohol first, then cocaine, then crack, and he did it all while reading bedtime stories, helping with homework, and pretending everything was under control. Zoe, as a toddler, wouldn't have known the difference. But her mother did, and over time, so did she. By 1989, when Zoe was 7, Samuel's addiction had become impossible to hide. His work dwindled, and his mood swung from hyper-present to completely absent. He would vanish for hours, sometimes days, always returning with apologies he didn't mean and promises he couldn't keep. But it wasn't rock bottom yet. That would come 2 years later. In 1991, everything snapped. Samuel had just returned from what he called a long weekend. LaTanya was at rehearsal. Zoe, now 8, had come home early from a friend's birthday party. The apartment was quiet, too quiet. She stepped into the living room and found her father lying motionless on the floor, surrounded by drug paraphernalia. His breathing was shallow, his skin pale. The man who had once carried her on his shoulders was crumpled like a stranger on their carpet. She screamed, then she froze. It was LaTanya who rushed him to the hospital. But it was Zoe's eyes, wide with confusion and fear, that Samuel would never forget. He later described it as the look that broke me. He didn't overdose that night, but something inside him died. The next morning, he checked into rehab, not because Hollywood demanded it, but because he couldn't stand the thought of Zoe growing up with a ghost for a father. He completed a 28-day program at a New York facility, detoxing quietly while Zoe visited on weekends. She didn't understand everything, but she understood enough. Daddy was trying, and for the first time in years, so was he. Shortly after leaving rehab in 1991, Samuel auditioned for Spike Lee's Jungle Fever. He landed the role of Gator, a crack addict, a part so raw and personal that he didn't even need to act. He poured every tremor, every relapse, every shame-filled memory into that performance. It was a breakthrough role. Critics praised his realism, but for Samuel, it wasn't acting. It was confession, it was therapy. It was a way to turn guilt into purpose for Zoe. From that point on, he never relapsed, never missed a test, never canceled a family trip. In interviews over the years, he repeated the same line: "I got sober for my daughter, period. No awards, no Marvel deal, no fame, just her." And Zoe, she would grow up not just with a famous father, but with a father who had earned her trust back, one clean day at a time. From 1991 to 1994, while Zoe was entering her early school years, her father was entering a new chapter of his life. Fresh out of rehab, Samuel L. Jackson stayed clean, focused, and relentlessly driven, not just as an actor, but as a father trying to prove he was worth his daughter's love. In 1991, he landed his first major role as Gator in Jungle Fever, a crack addict, ironically just weeks after completing his treatment. That same year, Zoe turned 9. Her father was back, but this time, he was present. Throughout the late 1990s, while Jackson's films topped the box office, Zoe attended prestigious private schools in Manhattan. Protected from Hollywood's spotlight, she wasn't pushed into acting. Instead, her parents, both veterans of stage and screen, emphasized education, discipline, and self-discovery. Samuel, now a household name, never missed her school plays or recitals. No matter where he was filming, London, Morocco, Vancouver, he flew home for every birthday, every milestone. "Movies will always be there," he once said, "but my daughter only has one childhood." By the early 2000s, Zoe had finished high school and was preparing for college. Unlike many celebrity kids, she had no interest in modeling or red carpets, but she had quietly developed an eye for detail from watching camera crews, shadowing assistant directors, and absorbing what made productions tick. Her decision was made. She would not follow in her father's footsteps. She would build her own lane behind the camera. After graduating from high school in the early 2000s, Zoe enrolled at Vassar College, then pursued television production at Sarah Lawrence College, two of the most respected liberal arts institutions in the U.S. Instead of relying on her last name, she started at the very bottom. Assistant jobs, production coordination, scheduling logistics, even crafting call sheets. Between 2007 and 2013, she worked her way through some of America's biggest reality TV hits: Top Chef, Project Runway, Top Chef Masters, Top Chef Junior, MasterChef Junior. Known for her precision and calm under pressure, she quickly rose to the role of line producer, overseeing full seasons, but she never leaned into her family name. In interviews, she made it clear, "My dad is an actor, I'm a producer. We do different things." Still, her father noticed. At the Toronto Film Festival, Jackson once joked, "Zoe checks my set schedules harder than my directors. She's a better producer than I ever was an actor." It was the highest praise he could give. In 2017, Zoe Jackson crossed a defining threshold. Top Chef, Season 14, a show she had helped shape from production to post, was nominated for a Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Reality Competition Program. She didn't promote herself. She didn't campaign. But there her name was, in the credits, not as daughter of Samuel L. Jackson, but as supervising producer. It was a career milestone built on precision, grit, and years of working from the ground up. Yet even as she forged her own path, her father was never far in the background. Not as a celebrity, but as a steady hand. Samuel had never pushed Zoe toward the industry. But once she chose her lane, he supported her relentlessly. When Zoe debated whether to accept higher leadership roles, it was Samuel who reminded her, "No one hands you power. You walk in and earn it, and then teach someone else how to do the same." During her toughest productions, when schedules collapsed or budgets fell apart, she'd often call him late at night. He never offered cliches, just clarity. What's the next move? What's in your control? And what's your standard? That mantra stuck. It became part of how she led teams. Direct, honest, no drama, no ego. In the years that followed, Zoe's body of work grew exponentially. She became a lead producer across shows like Top Chef, All Stars, Sugar Rush, Holiday Edition, Next Level Chef Project Runway. All Stars, Samuel celebrated each quietly, always present, always proud, but never publicizing her victories as his own. In fact, the only times he mentioned Zoe in interviews were to credit her professionalism and work ethic. "She's not riding my legacy," he once told Variety. "She's writing her own and doing it better than I ever did." Still, Zoe never forgot where her discipline came from. In private moments, she's acknowledged that watching her father rebuild his life, brick by brick, from addiction, from obscurity, from rejection, gave her a blueprint. She didn't want shortcuts, she wanted strength. And Samuel L. Jackson gave her that, not by shielding her from hardship, but by showing her how to face it with integrity. Today, colleagues describe Zoe as a force, calm under pressure, fiercely organized, and emotionally grounded. But those closest to her know, behind every show she leads, there's a man who once chose to get clean, not for Hollywood, but for her, and who still picks up the phone, just to ask, what do you need? As of 2025, Zoe Jackson stands not just as a respected executive producer, but as a woman who has quietly built a full, intentional life far beyond the reach of celebrity tabloids. Professionally, she continues to shape reality television behind the curtain, with ongoing collaborations at Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon Studios. Her recent projects include Top Chef, World All-Stars, Sugar Rush, The Global Bake Off, and a new docuseries exploring culinary innovation in underserved communities. But behind the production slates and studio contracts, there's another chapter unfolding, one much more personal. In 2021, Zoe married her longtime partner, a fellow creative, though not from the entertainment world. Their wedding was private, off the grid, attended only by close family and friends. Samuel L. Jackson, of course, walked her down the aisle, holding back tears as he handed over the daughter who once saved his life. Since then, Zoe and her husband have built a home together in Los Angeles, one designed for balance, not buzz. No red carpet, no press announcements, just a garden, a kitchen, and a work studio overlooking quiet hills. Those close to her say she's now considering her next chapter, not just as a producer, but as a mentor over the past year. Zoe has begun mentoring young women of color trying to break into film and television, not through public panels, but through hands-on development labs and private apprenticeships. She's also reportedly developing a new imprint within an existing studio, one focused on storytelling led entirely by women behind the scenes. Not for credit, not for clout, for impact. As for family, she's been open, quietly, about her hope to start one. Though she's never confirmed timelines or made any declarations, friends say Zoe is planning around motherhood on her terms, with intention, not impulse, the same way she's done everything else. Samuel, now in his late 70s, continues to act, but with Zoe grown and thriving, he's pulled back from Hollywood's demands. When asked in a recent interview what gives him peace, he didn't mention legacy or film. He smiled and said, "I get to watch my daughter live well." That's more than enough. Zoe Jackson may not be on camera. She may never give a viral interview, but she's living proof that it's possible to inherit a name and still write your own life. One daughter. She didn't vanish. She didn't rebel. She didn't chase headlines or inherit fame by force. Instead, Zoe Jackson watched quietly as the world applauded her father and chose a different stage. His legacy gave her a shadow. His redemption gave her light. She carried his recovery, his resilience, and his reason to keep going. If you found this breakdown powerful and want more deep dives into the hidden lives of Hollywood's forgotten children, subscribe to Legacy Uncovered. Your support brings these invisible stories to light. Thanks for listening.